Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Calls. This is the 2025 Mexico Open Data Dive Show. We have a lot to cover, including the research that I posted, or at least the crux of the research, what led to the research that I posted earlier today on social media. Of course, we're going to take a deep dive into Vedanta, see what metrics and shot types, the types of players that have played well the first 3 years at the Mexico Open, and then of course examine the players in the field who also fit the categories and characteristics of the players who have played well. So we have a lot to get into. Let's get into it. All statistics provided tonight and every night are from FantasyNational.com. It is the best golf analytic tool out there for your money. Go check out FantasyNational.com. You will not regret it. In the description of the video, there are links to all of the social media. First off, my X and Instagram, where, as I mentioned earlier today, I posted some research regarding the previous winners of the Mexico Open, some characteristics that they all shared, and players in the field this week who also share those patterns. A little spoiler, a little foreshadowing. There was only one player that fit all of the characteristics that I had found. So if you want to see the weekly research that I do on the PGA Tour, give me a follow over at your preferred social media site. X is also where I place my weekly betting cards and top player usage in the DFS contests I play. That comes out every Wednesday evening after the DFS Tactics show. So if you want to see those pieces of information, give me a follow over at X. And lastly, for social media, Gabe's handle's in the description. He writes a great article called The Fringe. Really can't recommend it enough. We've worked together for a few years now, and he is increased and put out a deluxe version of his article, which debuted last week. It was really fun, really informative. So you really are missing out if you haven't subscribed to his article. It is free to do, so make sure you're doing that. And go show him some support. Follow him over on social media. And then lastly, for this intro, we are live. Chat's open. Want to hear from you all. I do have one more shout to give a commenter from last night's show. Let me know that he hit the Ludwig outright as well. So Call Saul, which I'm assuming is from the TV show from years back. But the user named Call Saul was, or let me know that he was a winner. So congratulations to you on your hit. And of course, if you are successful, whether it's DFS, outrights, anything of that nature, let me know in chat, put it in the comments. I want to be able to shout out other members of the community who have success. So Call Saul has joined the likes of Darnell and Gabe and myself, who had a very, very, very successful Genesis. And then, moving up forward to the Mexico Open, want to hear from you all in terms of who's your favorite, who do you think is well positioned for Vedanta. What do you think plays well here? All of that. Put your opinions in chat. Make your thoughts heard. And of course, if you aren't able to catch the show live, put your thoughts and such in the comments. I'll always get to those as well. But we have a lot to get into. Let's get into it. Let's dig into the weeds of the data for the 2025 Mexico Open. And we are going to start, as we always do, on a Monday evening with the extended look at the forecast in Windfinder. And this is a pretty typical forecast for Vedanta. Very, very calm in the morning, and then the winds generally pick up in the afternoon. Some say that it is like clockwork around here, that by noon or by lunch the winds pick up, but honestly nothing major in terms of wind as of right now. It looks like winds are going to be calm in the morning and then maybe pick up into the low double digits. 10, 11 miles an hour would be my guess. So as of right now, it does not look like we're going to have anything with a wave advantage. There's not a lot here. It seems like it's going to be pretty even. And of course, we'll update this the beginning of Wednesday's show if that changes. But as of right now, it looks dry, looks pretty hot or pretty warm at least. highs in the low 90s, no rain, very little wind, just the way Vedanta generally plays. So there's a look at the forecast. Nothing throughout the weekend, nothing in terms of a potential wave advantage. Just a week to play your guys, seemingly. So with that, we'll move to Fantasy National. We'll do a couple of quick notes here, or maybe some review from last night. You see I was on the driving greens page view there. There has been one more field change, and that is Mav McNeely. Mav McNeely has decided not to play, so he is withdrawn. And Fred Biondi, the Brazilian player who's made a few starts on the PGA Tour, Fred Biondi has replaced him in the field. Jonathan Bird was not in here earlier, so it looks like there might be another withdrawal. I have not checked Rob Bolton's Twitter since around lunch today. So there very well may be one more field change. If you are aware of it, feel free to put it in chat and give us the update there. But I'm not going to go through X live on the show for that. All right. You see that I have 2024 and 2025 selected here. Let's just take a look at our top long course performers in the field. Vedanta is a little over 7,400 yards. It's going to play to its true 7,400 yards, being at sea level. Very little elevation change throughout the course. So your top performers on long courses going back to the beginning of last year: Sam Stevens, Hayden Springer, Justin Lauer, Ben Griffin, Chan Kim, Christopher Ventura, Norman Xiong, Aaron Baddeley, Charlie Hoffman, and Will Gordon. Again, players who are starred like Keith Mitchell and Mav McNeely, those two are not playing. They have withdrawn from the field. Kevin Tway is an alternate as of this moment. So any starred players are not in the field. There's a look at your top long course performers past couple of years. I keep reiterating it, and I'm going to continue to do so tonight and Wednesday. This is not a birdie fest. This is not easy. If we take a look at the historic conditions, -1 has been the cut all 3 years at Vedanta. 2 rounds of average, and then it got easier over the weekend. 2 rounds of average 2 years ago, and then 2 rounds of easy. So it's not a birdie fest by any means. So I am not going to be using this easy relative to par filter. It's certainly not difficult. These fairways are extremely wide. The greens are large. It is not difficult, but it's not easy. It's not a birdie fest either. And one other note, and I believe this is credit to Ron, and I'm probably going to butcher his last name, Klos, Klos, over on X. He has another data site, but he posted some more tournament information regarding Vedanta, or course information, and he had that the greens are 7,000 square feet, which would make some sense. I mean, those are large greens, and most Caribbean style events have large greens. So I wanted to give credit where credit was due there. Very slow past palum greens, again, much like the majority of Caribbean style events or Caribbean events. But the figure that I have seen is 7,000 square feet on average, and 41 yards wide are the fairways. Okay, with very little review, and of course this is a Greg Norman design, so we don't have any architect filter to look at. Let's go ahead and get into some of the detailed data regarding Vedanta in the Mexico Open. Again, a little bit less in terms of raw data because we only have 3 years as opposed to the normal 5 that we look at. But you can see off the tee has been pretty strong for the first 2 years, and then last year it backed up quite a bit in terms of the importance for the players who finished in the top 30. A lot of that, I think, has to do with the driving distance having gone down last year for the players in the top 30. But even so, with these two very low outliers, you can see Vedanta 26% more important than the average full field course in terms of off the tee. Approach, much the same. Not as much, but it's still more important than the average full field course. Distance, skipping ahead a little bit, 80% more important. So we're going to be looking at a lot of distance this week. You take a look at the winners. John Rahm, the inaugural, moves it off the tee. Tony Finau moves it off the tee. Jake Knapp, long hitter off the tee. So those players who have won have had a lot of success, and they move it off the tee. So we're going to take a look at quite a bit of distance again this week. It feels we're definitely not going to ignore the approach, and we'll get into this when I share some of the research that I had found earlier today. Approach is going to be something. The around the green has been consistent, but it hasn't been very much. So I just don't feel like around the green is going to carry a whole lot of weight this week. And of course, we'll look at whatever little paspalum putting data that we have access to. Moving across to distance and greens, fairways, distance, big factor, as we mentioned. A couple of years where the fairways were really important, and 1 year, Tony Finau's win where it wasn't at all. If you remove that extremely low outlier, fairways were something. But I don't know how I feel about it because these fairways are so wide. I mean, professionals are going to have to be extremely offline to not be in the fairway. There's not a whole lot of rough here around Vedanta. So, yeah, we're focused on the distance this week. I'm still thinking about how I want to approach the fairways, the accuracy portion of that. Now, greens, despite the fact that they are large, they do have some tendency to have some importance. You see 11% more important. So I do think looking at greens is going to be a decent factor and something to be prudent about this week. Especially since a lot of the approaches are with long irons, and that's where that's where the professionals are not necessarily struggle the most, but they have the most difficulty hitting the green. The longer away you are, the more difficult it is. Obvious statement's obvious. But I do think greens will have a little bit of an effect. When we look at scoring, few eagles, but look at the bogey avoidance. And this is just coming back to the fact that this isn't a birdie fest. You had 1 year where the birdies were a whole lot, 2 years ago. But the bogey avoidance has been fairly consistent. And bogey avoidance is actually much higher than the average full field course. So I'm thinking we're going to be looking at quite a bit of bogey avoidance. Double bogey avoidance was something that I was interested in last night. And there's a little bit here, but I'm thinking more so in the bogey avoidance. Considering the first year, the inaugural year, is a pretty high outlier off of the other two in terms of importance. And then moving across here, pars 3s, 4s, and 5s. Par 3s are going to carry quite a bit of weight. You see a 2 here. This is pretty heavy. 40% more important. In fact, this might be the course. Like Houston Memorial Park, par 3s are quite emphasized. Long, difficult course, but another long course. 39. So this course is the highest in terms of weight in the par 3s, which makes a lot of sense because there's 5 of them around here. Very rarely do they play that 226 to that actual length, as you see. It didn't play over 225 last year or in the inaugural year. If you wanted to get specific, you may want to look at 175 to 200, but we're basically looking at all par threes here. On the scorecard, there's 2 to this range, 1, 1, and 1. So it looks more so like the 175 to 200, but even so, this is less than, or right around 40 to 43% of the strokes gained total. That would not be enough to look at this range by itself. So we're just going to be looking at all par threes. Moving to par fours, a little bit mitigated, which you have one less par four here. 5 par threes, 4 par fives. I mean, you only have 9 par fours. And you see that here against the other full field courses, 10% less important. Now, the longer par fours could be something because you have a plethora of them around here. You have 4 of the 9 to this range, 2 of the 9 fall into this range on the scorecard. You do have a drivable par 4, which I don't know if we want to ignore. We did for Phoenix, the 17th. We ignored that and basically looked at these lengths, or maybe these lengths. Again, 1.6 out of 3.8 is not even half. So I don't know if we're wanting to look at this range by itself, considering the par threes in total are more than that range of par fours, which is pretty rare, to be honest with you. For example, like Phoenix, if we look up Phoenix, you had a 2.5 at this range of par fours, whereas the par threes in total were half of that, maybe a little bit more than half of that. So that's why I am not confident that we're going to look at any specific range of par 4 either. And then par 5s, they are important. They had a little bit extra weight 2 years ago when Tony Finau won, but they're 16% more important. But they're very equal in terms of the importance. So I could see myself doing 5% in each of these, considering how much they all share essentially into the strokes gained total of the par 5s. And then looking at proximity, I was quite interested to see what the 2 longest ranges held. Interestingly enough, the 175 to 200 is actually more than 200 plus. Hey, good evening, Phil. Thanks for jumping in chat. Much appreciated. It's good to see you this evening. Digging in deep into the weeds of this data for Vedanta. I think the 175 to 200 is a little bit more. You see this enormous outlier. That's a big part of it. But players just mash driver here, and so if they are just swinging away, then they're going to have more of this range of approach shot, I think. Now, I did look last year, and I looked at both ranges, 175 to 200 and 200 plus, in my mixed condition model, and it's probably best to do that. But if we remove that high outlier, again, still 40% more important than the average full field course, the 200 plus does overtake it in terms of importance, as you see, but not by much. So I think we're going to be looking at both of these ranges, because the longest of long hitters will have more of this range of approaches than the 200 plus. So I think that's what we're going to focus on. And total procs, I'm not sold. Even removing that low outlier, it's only, it's pretty close to full field average. I don't know. Yes, these greens are large, but again, 40 to 41% of your approach shots come from 200 plus, and then another 15% or so come from here. So more than half your approaches at Vedanta come from these ranges. Got a plus 171 on Cristobal del Solar, first round leader. I don't play first round leaders. I understand the appeal of them. I've heard him gain a lot of traction this week, so I'll be interested to see, what he looks like as we go through these various metrics tonight. But that's a name that I've heard a few people mention today is Del Solar. So anyway, there's a look at Vedanta in terms of a deep statistical dive, the metrics and the shot types, the style of players that have generally played best or at least have finished in the top 30 the first 3 years. We'll move back to Fantasy National. And again, we're going to be looking at quite a bit of off the tee, mainly distance, but I don't think we want to ignore off the tee. So your top performers off the tee on long courses since the beginning of last year: Kevin Yu, Rico Hoey, Aldrich Polkgater, Alejandro Tosti, Isaiah Salinda, Jesper Svensson, Taylor Moore, Vincent Norman, Tim Whiting, and Kurt Kitayama are your top 10. Again, Keith Mitchell has withdrawn and Mav McNeely have withdrawn. Hey, good evening, Darnell. Thanks for jumping to chat. Much appreciated. Talked to you a little bit last night. So again, congratulations on the live, tournament hit on Ludwig. And we're going to try to keep the momentum this week for Mexico. Good to see you this evening. Always appreciative. I'm always appreciative of you jumping in the chat. Supported the channel for a long time. I also said screw it and got 500 to win. Hey, yeah, I mean, this tournament's pretty wide open. Anytime you have a golf favorite, and the last I saw, Batia was, I think, 14 to 1. That's a pretty long shot to win, especially in a golf tournament. Most favorites, you'll dip into the single digits, plus 900, 9 to 1, whatever odds source that you look at. 14 to 1's pretty long for the tournament favorite, and he's the only one that was under 20. So at least DraftKings, the outright market was kind of all over the place, thinking there's a lot of people who could win this realistically. Have a good feeling on a no-name winning. Sam Stevens looking nice. Sam Stevens, he was my first inclination yesterday when starting to prepare for Mexico. He's only played here once, and he missed the cut. But, I mean, being the top strokes gained total player on long courses, he's in good form. It makes a whole lot of sense, Phil. Absolutely. While we're thinking about it, let's look at this Cristobal del Solar that I've heard a lot of people talking about so far early this week. I am not sure what country he is from. Obviously, he is Latino. He's played in the Mexico Open a couple times. Decent finish last year. Played in the Farmers. Made the cut at the Farmers, another long course. So, yeah, I mean, okay. Distance. He lacked distance at the Farmers, but has gained every other time on the PGA Tour. Nothing jumping off the page to me immediately, but I can understand it for the distance aspect. Anyway, there's a look at your top off the tee players on long courses. We're going to look at approach, your top approach players. And if we have enough rounds, it's not great, but a lot of the bigger name players aren't here this week. So early in 2025, your top approach players in the field this week in Mexico have been Andrew Putnam, Jackson Suber, Sam Ryder, Chan Kim, Nikolai Højgaard, David Skins, Rasmus Højgaard, Charlie Hoffman, Rikuya Hoshino, and Nicholas Norgard. Norgard is somebody that is quite interesting, prodigious amounts of length, and this place is probably wide enough for him to just freewheel. Having said that, if he hits it in another zip code like I have seen him do, could be in trouble. But Norgard's quite interesting for me. All right, and then lastly, we will take a look at some Paspalum putting. And the only data we have on Paspalum greens is from the Mexico Open. So your top putters on these specific greens at the Mexico Open: Ben Silverman, Davis Riley, Aaron Baddeley, Akshay Bhatia, Henrik Norlander, Patrick Rogers, Sammy Valimaki, Ben Griffin, Emiliano Grillo, and Chan Kim. Those are your top putters at the Mexico Open who are in the field this week. All right, going to move to fairways and greens, and we are going to be looking at driving distance and a whole lot of it. Since these fairways are very, very wide, very forgiving, players just kind of freewheel it here. So your top distance players on long courses when everybody's hitting driver. Hey, good evening, P. Thanks for jumping in the chat. Much appreciated. Hopefully you had a good Genesis. It's good to see you this evening. You're just in time as we start to go through some of these page views and take a look at what we think is going to play well around Vedanta and some of the players that seem to match up to that. Got Tim Whiting at 275. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Tim Whiting or Wheating, I don't know how you pronounce it exactly, is very, very long. Not necessarily the most accurate, but very long off the tee, as you can see there. Has gained in every single one of his professional tournaments. So, again, the narrative, it makes a lot of sense. Your top driving distance players on long courses in the field this week: Chris Goddard, another name that is quite interesting, at least to me. Alejandro Tosti, Nikolai Højgaard, Hayden Springer, Taylor Moore, Norman Xiong, Kurt Kitayama, Kevin Yu, Vincent Norman, and Tim Whiting. Sneaking in there into the top 10 thanks to Keith Mitchell and Keith Mitchell's withdrawal. Pearson Coody is an alternate. So Tim Whiting at the very bottom of that top 10. Definitely want to look at greens as well. Players who are adept at hitting greens, as soon as Fantasy National decides to cooperate. Your top greens gained players on long courses going back to last year: Rico Hoey, Matty Schmid, Grayson Sigg, Kevin Yu, Lonto Griffin, Sam Stevens, Nick Hardy, Andrew Putnam, Alex Smalley, and Chan Kim. Not going to do anything with sand saves, scrambling. I don't know how I feel about the accuracy portion of driving this week, since these fairways are so wide and forgiving. So that's all we're going to look at for now in that regard. We're going to go to scoring, and we're going to look at bogey avoidance on long courses. Again, this is not a birdie fest. This place is not the easiest. It's not difficult by any stretch of the imagination, but it's not easy. It's not a birdie fest. So players are going to have to be able to avoid some bogeys if they're wanting to be in contention. Your top bogey avoiders on long courses: Sam Stevens, Akshay Bhatia, Chris Ventura, Grayson Sigg, Nick Hardy, Aaron Baddeley, Will Gordon, Matt Wallace, Mac Meisner, and Aaron Rye. We'll go to proximity. And we're going to be looking at basically the 175 to 200 and 200 plus. So your top 175 to 200 players: Nikolai Højgaard, Henrik Norlander, Matty Schmid, Kurt Kitayama, Adam Svensson, Will Gordon, Joel Damon, Matteo Monacero, Matt McCarty, Erik van Rooyen. Of these, Nikolai Højgaard, top 20 in both, including being the best from 175 to 200. Matty Schmid, top 10 in both. Kurt Kitayama, top 5 in both. Long irons are a big deal around Vedanta. Adam Svensson, very much so. Erik van Rooyen. Akshay Bhatia, Aaron Rye. Jake Knapp, defending champion. Euros love long irons. Generally speaking, for different reasons though, than what Vedanta demands. Now, some of the Caribbean events can get pretty windy, and Euros can match to that, keeping a lower ball flight and stuff. But the thing with Vedanta is that, one, this is at sea level, so the ball's just not going to travel as far in the air, and this is paspalum throughout the entirety of the course, not just on the greens, but the fairways, the rough. This is all platinum paspalum. Paspalum is very sticky. You're not going to get a whole lot of rollout with the drive, which means and I'm going to use the name Shane Lowry, but that style of game where you hit it low and chase it doesn't really work around Vedanta because of this sticky paspalum grass. So you're just going to have to hit it long in the air. You're just going to have some carry with the driver and with your long irons. So there's a look at your top 175 to 200. But yes, P, I mean, in general, Euros do love the long irons. You see, like John Rahm, the inaugural winner here. I'd have to go and we'll take a look at it a little bit later. I do have a file that I've made for you all. We can take a look at a couple of the Euros and see how they've generally done here. There's a look at your top 175 to 200, your top 200 plus prox players: Olesen, Kitayama, Sami Välimäki, who runner-up last year, Nick Hardy, Kevin Yu, Matty Schmid, Akshay Bhatia, Michael Kim, Chandler Phillips, and Rafael Campos at the bottom of that top 10. So, again, we're focused on these two ranges here. These two, 175 to 200 and 200 plus. Again, some of those names, Kitayama, third and fourth is immaculate. Matty Schmid, Akshay Bhatia, Jake Knapp, Nikolai Højgaard, Aaron Rye. I'm just trying to highlight guys that are maybe top 20 or top 25 in both. Adam Svensson, Erik van Rooyen. Van Rooyen won the Worldwide Technologies in the fall of 2023. And that's a very good comp course for this. So there's the players that you'll want to look at in terms of proximity. We'll move to par threes, and I guess we'll just go with all par threes and go from 2024, because you see some of these players don't have a whole lot of rounds in here. Now some have upwards of hundreds. So, but if we go to just 2025, like 20 rounds at most, we're in a unique situation here where we either have too small a sample size or too large a sample size, in my opinion. When that's the case, I would almost rather go with the too large a sample size while we're doing our research. So your top par 3 performers since the beginning of last year: Michael Thorbjornsen, now first because of the 2 withdrawals. Thorbjornsen, David Skins, Batia, Ryan Fox, Chan Kim, Brian Campbell, Nate Lashley, Michael Kim, Justin Lauer, and Ben Griffin. Again, we're mainly focused on this range, but I don't think it's enough to single out that range. So we're just going to be looking at all par 3s, and they carry quite a bit of weight here. There's 5 par 3s. Par 4s. We're absolutely looking at the long par 4s here. 450 to 5 and 500 plus. Your top, we'll say par 4s in total. Rye, Bridgman, Putnam, C.T. Pan, Justin Lauer, Harry Hall, Batia, Griffin, Gerard, and Hostler and Carson Young. But really, somebody like Bridgman would be an honorable mention, 41st and 1st. Batia, 10th and 36th. Ricky Castillo, University of Florida product, 12th and 29th. Sam Stevens, top 25 in both of the longer ranges of par 4s. Jaeger, Patrick Rogers, who's been very good around Vedanta. So it makes a lot of sense. The more I think about it, the more I'm thinking we might do something like 5% in each of these ranges. Yes, that would ignore the drivable, the very scoreable par 4, but again, going to the breakdown, we have 4 from 450 to 5, 2 at 500 plus, and the 400 to 450s, 415 won't get there, but 445 could absolutely come up to the 450. So the more I think about it, the more I kind of like looking at these 2 ranges. And then lastly, par 5s. I'll sort on total par 5s, but we're looking at actually all 3 of these. If I remember from Excel. The vision skewed. I'm just checking something here real quick. Par 5s, yeah, they were pretty equal from 500 to 600 to 650 for Mexico. So we're looking at these 3 ranges. Hayden Springer, Highsmith, Wallace, Hoey, Schmid, Frankie Sapan, Kiyama, Fishburne, Hostler, and Rye. But really, like Hayden Springer, essentially top 20 in all of them. Highsmith's good on 2 of the 3. Frankie Sapan would fit, top 30 in all 3. Victor Paris, another Euro. Tapiz Point. Anyone else here? Most of these guys are very good at 2 of the 3 lengths. But really, like Hayden Springer stands out. And then Victor Paris stands out a little bit. Frankie Sapan. We're focused on these 3 ranges for the par 5s. All right. Bring us back to the strokes gained. We'll go to the early look file just very, very quickly. And then we'll end the show off with some of the research that led to what I posted earlier today. We'll take a look at who has performed well at these various metrics that we've seen throughout the evening that we want to focus on at Vedanta specifically. So your top approach players at Vedanta the past 3 years. Jake Knapp, of course, winning last year. He gained almost 9 with the irons. Batia played very well. Van Rooyen's been good in 2 tries with the irons. Grillo, 3 for 3. Jaeger, 3 for 3 average finish inside the top 15. He's been very good with the irons. Sami Valimaki, runner-up last year. David Lipsky, he's always been a good iron player. He's not always been a good putter. And he's putt well around here. So, as I mention all the time, when a bad putter in multiple tries shows you that they're comfortable on those greens, somebody to think about. Lonto Griffin, 3 for 3. Grayson Sigg, 3 for 3. Rye, 2 for 3. So there's your top iron players. We'll look at putting. Now this should match or be very close to what we saw in Fantasy National. Yeah, Ben Silverman, Batia, Sammy Valimaki. So Davis Riley 1 for 2, Badley doing Badley things, short game extraordinaire, ball striking leaves a lot to be desired. There's Patrick Rogers, there's Griot, Justin Lauer, C.T. Pan, Nate Lashley a little bit further down. We'll go to driving distance. Absolutely. Don't want to ignore that. Your top driving distance players at Vedanta. Will Gordon, somebody I'm quite interested in this week. Of course, Jake Knapp. Kitayama, interestingly enough. Kevin Roy. Vincent Norman. There's Patrick Rogers again. Any player highlighted orange as an alternate at the moment. Toasty, Riley, Fishburne, Hostler, only one time. Vincent Whaley's had a lot of distance, but a lot of lack of success. I'm guessing he hasn't putted well. He's been okay. Oh, that's why his irons have been garbage here at Vedanta, so that's why he's struggled. Anyway, there's your top distance players. We'll go to bogey avoiders, par threes, because there's another file that I actually want to show you all. So top bogey avoiders around Vedanta in the first 3 years. Olesen, Chan Kim, again, Patrick Rogers, Grayson Sigg, Michael Kim, Justin Lauer, Yeager, Alex Smalley, only 1 for 3, has avoided bogeys, just hadn't gained many birdies. Putnam just at the bottom of your screen. Definitely want to look at par threes. Par threes, and then maybe like the 200 plus procs. Top par 3 performers around Vedanta. Again, Jake Knapp, Kitayama only 1 time, Valimaki 1 time. So Griot, Lashley, C.T. Pan, EVR, Agron Royan, Skins, Ramey, Harry Hall, Vincent Norman. Matty Schmidt 0 for 2. Played the par 3s well. He's been really bad at the par 4s. Yeager. There's Sam Stevens. Missed the cut. He finished T97. Essentially missed the cut. He was bad on the par 4s his 1 year he played. Michael Kim, Molinari. All right, last one. Excuse me. Last one will be the procs. We'll do 200 plus, and we'll see if anyone also excels at the 175 to 200 with it. So Kitayama, Valimaki, look at Hayden Buckley. Only 1 try, but I mean he was very good at the longest proximities here at Vedanta. Jake Knapp, defending champion, makes a lot of sense. Lipsky, Putnam, Charlie Hoffman, good. C.T. Pan, 2 for 2. Average finish inside the top 20. He's popped a couple of times. Eric Van Rooyen has popped a couple times. A little bit further down here, another Euro, Patty Harrington, Harry Hall, another Euro. You might be on to something there, Pete. Akshay Bhatia, Griot, 3 for 3. Aaron Rye. Okay, interesting. But there's your top distance proximity players at Vedanta. Before I go into the research, because I do want to finish the show off with that, I did make a file that is a little bit of an attempt at trying to see or maybe extrapolate a little bit of some Paspalum performance. So what this is sorted solely on name. I'll zoom out, maybe that gives you all a little bit more of a full picture view here. Sorted on name, how they have played at Vedanta. So you see Aaron Badley, 2 for 3, average finish 56th. Aaron Rye, 2 for 3, average finish of 49th. But then I've taken their performance at the other Caribbean Paspalum courses, Corrales, Puerto Rico, and the Worldwide Technologies. What we're going to see here, and this is that course value that I always put into my rankings. The lower the number, the better. As you see, Batia's only played it one time, so he has a very low value here. Somebody like Svensson, it was only one time, but he played terribly, so it's a bad course value. If we sort on best performances at these other Paspalum courses, and you see over here off to the side, it'll be off your screen, but like Batia has played the Corrales very well, Puerto Rico very well, Worldwide Technologies very well. He's got the best kind of comparison course performance, if you will. So Batia finished 10th at the Worldwide Technologies, finished 2nd in Puerto Rico, top 25 at Corrales. He's only played it one time each time, but he still has the best. So if we go through here, the players who have played the best at the comparison courses, Batia, Sam Stevens. Now, he didn't play Mexico very well, but he's been very good at the other Paspalum courses. Sam Ryder, he's not played Mexico, but he's been good at the others. Bridgman, Hall, Justin Lauer. So, to your point again, P, about the Euros, Harry Hall, English. Norlander is Swedish. Another one of these Euros. Matty Schmid, who's been really bad around Mexico, but has played pretty well at comparison courses. Interestingly, Patrick Rogers, who's probably been the best at Mexico, been fairly mediocre. Actually, that's not fair to him. He's been bad at Corrales, but he's 2 for 2 at Puerto Rico, 1 for 1 at the Worldwide Technologies. So Patrick Rogers makes a lot of sense, seemingly. Smalley's been pretty good at the other Caribbean places, but pretty mediocre here. If we look at the bottom, like these are the players who have not played any of the other comparison courses. Like you see, Jake Knapp won last year. Sammy Valimaki, runner-up last year. So, players who have not played well at the comparison courses. Interestingly enough, like Alejandro Tosti. He's been pretty good at Mexico, but 0 for 2 at Puerto Rico, 0 for 1 at Worldwide Technologies. Really bad. CT Pan, been very good around Mexico. He was only 0 for 1 at the Worldwide Technologies, so, I mean, he's got a very, very small sample size of data. Sig, who popped quite a bit tonight, been very good at Corrales, 3 for 3, but 0 for 1 at Puerto Rico, 0 for 1 at the Worldwide Technologies. Some others up here, like David Skins is a little surprising, considering par 3s are so important around Mexico, and he generally plays par 3s pretty well. Davis Riley, Balnati, these are the guys who have not been good at the comparison courses. I mentioned last night Matt Wallace, winner at Corrales, but then 0 for 1 at Puerto Rico. So it's not a whole lot of sample size. I'll give you that. It is not a big sample size. But I wanted to provide something for you all, considering there isn't a lot of data around Paspalum. So these are the players that have played, the Corrales and Puerto Rico and the Worldwide Technologies. Those are the players that have played it the best. I'll resort this on name. And feel free to ask about a specific player if you want to see what kind of performance they have. But we're going to end the show off looking at some of the research that led to what I posted today. So, again, we'll start with the winner matrix, and there's not a lot here. There just isn't. This tournament's been going for 3 years. This will be the fourth. John Rahm didn't have any history because he won the inaugural. Now Tony Finau had a lot of success. Finished second in the first time he saw it, and then wins. He also played pretty well last year. Jake Knapp had never seen it. So there isn't a whole lot to go on based on how well they've played that course. So instead, what's the one thing we've been looking at all week so far? It's been long courses. So any course highlighted in blue is a long course. Let's see how those players did on those courses leading into their Mexico Open win. Jake Knapp only played one long course. It was the Farmers. But he finished top 5. Tony Finau, top 30 at the Masters, top 25 at the Arnold Palmer, top 10 the Farmers, top 10 the Century. All long courses. Genesis is right on the cusp of being a long course as well. How about John Rahm? Again, top 30 the Masters, top 20 the API, top 5, runner-up. So all of these players have been really good on long courses in that same, early part of the year. So this means you're going to want to look at the Century. You're going to want to look at the Farmers. You're going to want to look at the Genesis from last week. And guys who played well at those tournaments, make sure you give them a whole lot of consideration. Pretty telling how well these past champions have played on other long courses early that year. And look at their ball striking on those long courses. Now, of course, we don't get the Masters data. It's proprietary, but every single one of these champions, past champions of the Mexico Open, gained in both ball striking categories. They gained in distance, and they gained on approach their last time out, whether it was a long course or not. Like the Masters is a long course, but Heritage isn't. WPM Waste Management is not a long course. They also gained on approach their last time out. They gained in distance their last time out. So there was despite only 3 years of data to sift through, there wasn't a whole lot of time frame for patterns to be established. There were some patterns that have been established. So I posted that research over on X, and as I teased in the beginning of the show, there was one player who satisfied all of the things that I just talked about. Top 10 on long course, gained ball striking on those long courses. There was only one player. There were a few that satisfied this part but didn't gain on approach their last time out. So I listed, I think there's 6 or 7 names that I've put out on social media. If you're interested to see who those are, make sure you go check out what I posted earlier today over on X. But that's going to be it for the show this evening. I'll just leave it on this, I suppose, for you all, the regular early look file. That's it for the show this evening. Thanks to Phil and Darnell and P for jumping in the chat. Very much appreciated. Thanks to everyone else out there who tunes in, watches, listens, supports the channel by liking the videos, commenting and subscribing. I always appreciate it. Love what I do. Taking a very in-depth look at golf statistics, giving you a statistician's view of what he sees, trying to help us all win a little bit of money in the process. Last week was our biggest week by far of 2025. We're going to try to keep the momentum this week for Mexico. Thanks again for all the support, for all of the wagers you've made so far this week for the Mexico Open, for all the wagers you're thinking about making this week for the Mexico Open. And until I see you Wednesday night for the DFS Tactics show, may all your bets be profitable.